Welcome back to Mythology Matters, the series where we explore the fascinating stories and characters from different mythologies around the world. Today, we're taking a deep dive into Queen Mave, the intoxicating warrior queen of Irish mythology. Before we dive into her adventures, let's talk about her name. What does it mean, and where does it come from? Well, on screen now you'll see some of the various Celtic spellings of her name, however the pronunciation is the same, Mave. This is generally believed to come from the Proto-Celtic Meadhbh, mead, or Meadhbh, intoxicating. Therefore her name could be interpreted as the mead woman, the drunken one, or she who intoxicates. This is thought to reflect her role as a goddess who bestowed kingship by offering mead, an alcoholic drink made from honey that was considered a sacred beverage in ancient Ireland. However, it is also suggested that the name comes from Proto-Celtic Meadhbh, the ruler. Over the centuries, her name has been anglicized in just as many variations. I'll show you some of the more common spellings on screen now. And there are several place names in Ireland containing her name, such as Mave's Cairn in County Sligo, Milleen Mave at Rathcrowan in County Roscommon, and Rath Mave at Tara in County Meath. Some of these names suggest that Mave was also an earth and fertility goddess, as they refer to various parts of her body. Queen Mave was the Queen of Connacht. Ireland is divided into 4 provinces, Ulster in the north, Leinster in the east, Munster in the south, and in the western province of Ireland lies Connacht, where today's story begins. She was a powerful ruler who led her army in many battles and raids. She was fierce, cunning, brave, and ambitious, and she was not someone you would want to mess with. But how did she become the Queen of Connacht, and what was her early life like? Well, according to the tale Cath Bóinde, or the Battle of the Boyne, not to be confused with the more well-reported battle of the same name in 1690. This Battle of the Boyne is set in ancient Ireland, in a time long before any modern history. Queen Mave was the daughter of Ó Cúailnge Lach, the High King of Ireland, and his wife, Cloyfin. Queen Mave was not only a powerful ruler and a fierce warrior, but also a passionate lover. She famously had a voracious sexual appetite, and required a man who could satisfy her 3 strict criteria. He had to be without fear, meanness, or jealousy. She was not faithful to any of her 5 husbands, and she took many lovers, both mortal and divine. Some of her lovers were famous heroes and kings, such as Fergus mac Roich, Allo mac Mata, and Lug mac Ethlin. Some of them were killed by her jealous husband, or by her vengeful ex-husband, or by her angry fairy husband. Yes, she had a fairy husband who cursed her to be unfaithful and to cause the death of every man she loved. That's how much she broke his heart. Do you remember, in the beginning of this video, I told you the meaning behind the name Mave to be mead woman, or the intoxicating one? Well, clearly she was intoxicating in more ways than just alcohol. She was a woman who could make any man fall in love with her, and who could just as easily drive any man to his doom. She was Queen Mave, and she was a legend. She had 5 sisters and 4 brothers. Her first marriage was to the King of Ulster, Conlon mac Nessa, with whom she bore a son, Glashna. However, she left Conlon because of their constant quarrels and returned to her father's house. She then became the ruler of Connacht, after her father deposed the previous king, Tinny mac Conry. She would go on to marry Tinny to avoid more bloodshed, but later divorced him and married Allo mac Mata, who became her most famous husband. But wait, there is another story that tells a different version of how Mave became the Queen of Connacht, and it involves a curse, a murder, and a transformation. According to a myth called Echtra Nerai, or the Adventure of Nera, Mave was not the daughter of Ó Cúailnge Lach, but she was actually his wife. She was originally a fairy woman who lived in the otherworld with her husband, Alan. One day, she saw Echtra, who was the High King of Ireland, and fell in love with him. She left Alan and came to the human world, where she married Echtra and became his queen. However, the fairy king Alan was not happy about this, and he cursed Mave to be eternally unfaithful to Echtra and to cause the death of every man she loved. Mave, of course, had many affairs, and just as her curse foretold, each of her lovers was killed by Alan or his soldiers. One of her lovers was Tinny Mac Conry, the king of Connacht, whom she killed by cutting off his head. She then assumed the throne as the ruler of Connacht. Here she married Allo Mac Mada, who was her equal in wealth and status. So, which of these origin stories have you heard before? Let me know in the comments below. Irish mythology is full of contradictions and variations, and different sources may tell different versions of the same events. Maybe both stories are true, or maybe a myth is just that, a myth. What matters is that she was a remarkable woman, one who rose to power and fame, and who left a lasting mark on Irish culture and history. Next, I want to tell you about her most famous adventure, the Táin Bó Cúailnge, or the cattle raid of Cooley, where she waged war against the northern province of Ulster for a bull. This is one of the most epic and legendary stories in Irish mythology, and it features a large cast of characters, both human and supernatural, who are involved in a series of battles, duels, and feats. The Táin Bó Cúailnge story is the centerpiece of the Ulster Cycle, a collection of tales that date back to the Iron Age and the early medieval period, and that depict the heroic deeds and adventures of the Ulleth, the people of Ulster, and their enemies and allies. The Táin Bó Cúailnge is mainly preserved in medieval manuscripts, such as the Book of the Dun Cow and the Book of Leinster, which were written by Christian monks between the 11th and 14th centuries. As you know, Ireland is now, and was always, divided into 4 provinces: Ulster, Connacht, Leinster, and Munster. Each province had its own king, who ruled over a number of smaller kingdoms and tribes. The High King of Ireland was the supreme ruler. They resided at the Hill of Tara and were elected by the other kings to the ancient seat of the High Kings. The High King at the time of our story was Echtra Féad Lach, the father of Queen Mave. Queen Mave was the Queen of Connacht, and her husband was Allo Mac Mada, who was her equal in wealth and status. They had a competitive relationship and often boasted about their possessions and achievements. One night, they compared their herds of cattle and found out that they were equal in everything except for one thing. Allo had a magnificent and extremely fertile white bull called Finn Benach that was unmatched by any of Mave's cows. Mave was not happy about this and decided to find a bull that was even better than Allo's. She heard that there was a brown bull in Ulster called Don Cúailnge that was the finest, most virile bull in all the land, and she wanted it. She sent messengers to the owner of the bull, Doire MacFeachna, and asked him to lend her the bull for a year in exchange for a large amount of gold and silver. Doire agreed, but when he heard one of Mave's messengers say that they would have taken the bull by force if he had refused, he changed his mind and refused to give up his prized animal. Mave was furious and in revenge declared war on Ulster to steal the bull. This was the start of the Táin Bó Cúailnge, or the cattle raid of Cooley, where Mave gathered her army, including warriors from other provinces, and marched towards Ulster. The men of Ulster were suffering from a curse that made them weak and unable to fight, except for one, Conlon, the hero of Ulster, who was immune to the curse because he was half god. Conlon single-handedly defended his province from Mave's army by challenging them to single combat and killing them one by one. He was a formidable opponent who had a supernatural ability to transform into a monstrous and unstoppable warrior. Mave tried everything to defeat Conlon. She tried seduction, bribery, and even murder, but failed on all attempts. She even sent his foster brother Ferdia to fight him, knowing that they loved each other as brothers. Conlon and Ferdia fought for 4 days, and each day they exchanged gifts and compliments until Conlon finally killed Ferdia with his deadly spear, the Gay Bog. Conlon was heartbroken and mourned for his friend. The war lasted for months, and Mave, eventually, with the help of some magic and trickery, managed to capture the brown bull. She brought the bull back to Connacht, where it met her husband's white bull. The two bulls fought each other, and the brown bull killed the white one, but not before the white bull had gored the brown bull's guts out. Mave's brown bull then wandered around Ireland, spreading his entrails before eventually dying of exhaustion. Mave's quest for the bull was in vain, and she ended up losing more than she gained. If you're enjoying this video, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel. Check the pinned comment below for our full playlist of Mythology Matters. The next story I'm going to tell you is considerably less well known compared to the Táin Bó Cúailnge or the cattle raid of Cooley. However, let's take a look at Queen Mave's more playful side now with our final story of the day called Scéla Mucce Meic Dathó, or the story of Meic Dathó's pig, where Mave and Attribution get into a fight with the king of Leinster over a piece of pork. The story goes like this. Meic Dathó was a king of Leinster. He had a famous pig. This pig was the biggest, the best, and the plumpest pig in all of Ireland. He invited all the kings and warriors of Ireland to his land for a feast, where the pig would be served as the main dish. Mave, Attribution, Conlon and his men came to the feast and wanted to have the best part of the pig, which was the cuailnge, or the champion's portion. They argued, they quarreled, and threatened to fight for the cuailnge. The host, Meic Dathó, did not know what to do and asked his wise old dog Attribution for advice. Attribution told him to let the two sides fight for the cuailnge and to give it to the winner. Meic Dathó agreed and announced his decision to the guests. As the guests prepared to fight, jeering and goading each other in the feast hall, a servant enters the room carrying the prized pig on a spit. Meic Dathó said he would give the cuailnge to the fastest warrior in the hall, and that he would throw the pig in the air, and whoever caught it first would get the prized cut of meat. He then threw the pig high in the middle of the feast hall and ran for cover. The kings and warriors were surprised and did not know what to do. They looked at the pig and saw that it was falling towards Attribution, Meic Dathó's wise old dog, who caught the pig in his mouth and swallowed it whole. With a burp and a fart, the dog looked at the guests, wagging his tail as if to say thank you. The guests were shocked and realized that they had been fooled by a dog and that the cuailnge was gone. They decided to forget about the pig. A few mugs of mead would suffice as a consolation prize. They continued to enjoy the rest of the feast and to make peace with each other. They praised the dog and said that he was indeed the best and the bravest warrior in the hall, for he had outsmarted all the warriors and kings of Ireland using his wit, and that he deserved the cuailnge for doing so. They also praised Meic Dathó, saying that he was a wise and generous host, and that he had averted a war with his cleverness. This story shows that Mave and Attribution, Conlon and his warriors, were not only enemies but also friends who could share a feast and a joke. They could laugh at themselves and their pride. It also shows that Meic Dathó was a smart and cunning king who used his dog and his servant to pacify his guests, and most importantly, to avoid a bloodbath in his home. Have you heard of these legends before? Let me know in the comments below any other stories you have heard about Queen Mave, the intoxicating one. For now, we'll part ways, and I'll see you in the next video. Subscribe to our channel to get more videos like this, and remember you'll find the full playlist in the pinned comments below. Check out the video on screen now that YouTube has selected for you, based on your recent history, and I'll see you in the next one.